that this is the toughest off-road race in the world. And there's been many riders that have died on this race over the years. It's a real life wake-up call of like, man, what have I got myself in for?
Kirsten's story of competing in the Dakar Rally is really gaining momentum as her preparations intensify. With each new week, the prospect of heading to Saudi Arabia grows ever larger.
So here we are, 5.5 months away from the Dakar, and it's really starting to hit home. It's a reality now that I'm about to take on the biggest race, the biggest thing in my life, and my life is just Dakar now, and with that comes all the excitement.
Though the emotions are now that of excitement, Dakar Rally finisher Joey Evans shares his first-hand experiences from the race.
You know, the Dakar Rally for me was a dream from when I was in my 20s. It was just one of those things, man, this toughest off-road race in the world, and I heard about it and I was like, yes, I want to do that race. And then my life took some crazy turns, and I broke my back and was paralyzed with a spinal cord injury. I was fortunate enough that with time I did learn to walk again, and a whole bunch of stories in that on its own. But it took me from that day 10 years to eventually be physically fit enough and to do the racing I needed to qualify to be on that start line. And so 10 years after the 2007 crash in 2017, I stood on the start line of the Dakar Rally, and people come up to you and they want autographs and they crowd around you in the bivouac and in the pits and stuff, and you're signing t-shirts and you're signing caps, and it's like an alternate universe. It's just crazy. And then you start racing, and then the reality sets in that this is the toughest off-road race in the world. And there's been many riders that have died on this race over the years. My race played out just incredible. There was 3 of us South Africans that started the race on motorcycles that year in 2017, and by the end of day 5, I was the only South African left in the race. My 2 teammates, both incredible riders, Walter de Blanche and David Thomas, were both out. David Thomas broke his leg in several places, and Walter had his engine burnt out on day 4. And so I just kept ticking away, and the race was 13 days. And there's so much I could tell you about the race. The dangers, the places, the dune fields, the mountains, the rivers you got to cross. It was just a crazy race. But on the second last day was where my luck really ran out, and that was I was hit by a car. The car came up behind me, and they beeped me, but they normally beep you about 200 meters back, and this guy beeped me about 30 meters back, and I'm sure he expected me just to swerve out the way quickly, but I was in a rut at the time. I couldn't get out of the way, and as I tried to swerve this bike, the front wheel just dragged up against the side of the rut, and I'd already committed my weight, and this guy was right on me, and I just dived off this bike, and he just completely rode right over my bike. And there I was on day 12 of 13 after 10 years of trying to get to this race, and I was out of the race, and I can't even tell you what that felt like. It just seemed like all the dreams, all the planning, all the money was just wasted, and it was a real low point for me. And then I decided I got to just try, and so I tried to fix that bike, and it took me the best part of an hour, but I got that bike working without an exhaust, with smashed petrol tanks. The whole frame was bent, the bars were bent. All the lights and the wiring had all been broken up at the back. The whole navigation tower broken and bent into the bars, but I got it working, and I started riding. I couldn't ride in the main track anymore, so I kind of zigzagged through the bush, just ticking away, but I was wasting my time. I was out of the race. There was no way at that speed that I could finish that race. That day I had 660 kilometers to still ride. It was just a waste of time. And then the most amazing thing happened, and I found a bike in the middle of this desert. Okay, I've just ridden a few kilometers without an exhaust through the bush, trying to stay out of the way, and I've just come across a bike right here where the rider's being evacuated. He's obviously injured, so I'm just going to take everything off his bike that I need, put it onto mine, and just continue. There's nothing else I can do, and then obviously tonight I'm going to explain to the guy and stuff, but he's been evacuated, so he's out the race. But we're just going to quickly cannibalize what we can. It's freaking insane, but it shows you don't quit, ever. And I got my bike in pretty decent nick after that, but without navigation. But I'd lost so much time by then. I was 4 hours behind the guy who was second last. And I decided I just got to keep going, and I had to be in by 4 o'clock the next morning. And I thought, well, I'm just going to ride through the night. And I rode on, and I eventually got to that second last bivouac of the Dakar Rally at 11 minutes past 2 in the morning. I had 1 hour of sleep, and I rode the last day, another 750 odd kilometers, and I finished the race. And to finish the Dakar Rally and to get that medal was just, for me, was just incredible. It had been a dream for so many years. It had been this thing I'd like strive for and paid such a heavy price to be on that start line. It was just incredible. Was it enjoyable? No, it was hell. We just sucked up pain for 2 weeks. Is it great to have finished it? It's the best feeling in the world. I wouldn't trade it for anything. To be able to say that you finished that race, for me, is just incredible. And I know that for Kirsty, she feels the same way about this race. This is a dream of hers for many years. It's really, she has achieved so much. Not even as a woman racing, any guy that would have achieved what she's achieved would be just incredible. And so for her to achieve it is just massive. And this is really the last big thing for her. And she's going to go and race this thing, and she is going to suffer, and she's going to hate it, and she's going to come home with that medal, and it's going to be incredible.
To keep up with Kirsten and more on the power tools that won't quit, follow Ryobi Africa on social media.